Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at all Helping Parents Heal meetings is voluntary. All discussions that take place at affiliate-led meetings are confidential. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you've joined us this evening. You're in for a real treat tonight.
Yes, you are. And I am just going to quickly read two very shortened bios for Dr. Linda Backman and for Reverend Sue Frederick, because I want to be able to get into this as quickly as possible. Dr. Linda R. Backman, featured on Coast to Coast AM and Gaia TV. Dr. Linda Backman is an expert teacher, regression therapist, and licensed psychologist with 45 years of private practice experience, including over 25 years guiding soul regressions. Linda was trained by soul regression pioneer Dr. Michael Newton, and they worked together training other therapists for 3 years. Linda has conducted thousands of past life and between lives soul regressions in person and remotely. Linda founded the Ravenheart Center and Training Institute in Boulder, Colorado in 1997 and teaches regularly worldwide. She also provides spiritual mentoring and psycho-spiritual grief sessions on Zoom. Linda's books are Souls on Earth, The Evolving Soul, and Bringing Your Soul to Light. She is an international expert in understanding how reincarnation plays a pivotal role in our personal growth and relationships. Her website is www.ravenheartcenter.com. I'll put that into the chat box, but first, let me talk about Reverend Sue, who is also a very close friend, and she's here in the Phoenix area, and I'm just so grateful. She is a channel clairvoyant, claircognizant, and clairaudient who receives wisdom from guides and departed loved ones to help others heal grief and find purpose. With her powerful intuition, Sue uses sacred numerology and mystical information to facilitate access into a divine lens where our soul's wisdom is available 24/7. Sue has been a guest on hundreds of radio shows and TV interviews, featured in major magazines and newspapers, and is the author of more than 11 books. After suffering a tragic loss, Sue became a sacred numerology practitioner since 1981. She brings a deeply enlightened perspective to using numbers as navigational tools for deciphering the soul's journey and connecting to departed loved ones. Before I finish that, I just want to say she just published a page on her website to be able to calculate very easily, and I put it on our Instagram, it's on our Facebook, so if I'll make sure that I have that link as well in her bio. Her website is www.suefrederick.com. And without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Dr. Linda Backman. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you so much. It is just an amazing pleasure to be with all of you. And here's my most important credential, and I really mean this. I too am a bereaved parent and had a child die. It's very long ago, but it changed my life in so many ways. And I won't go into that in great detail, except to say that back in the 70s, I had a baby born prematurely. And that second son of ours lived a short time, a few hours, and passed. And it changed me in all kinds of ways. I'm actually the co-founder of a long-standing United Way agency in Charlotte, North Carolina, dedicated to helping parents who've had a child pass. So my heart is just deeply, deeply with all of you, and I have walked that road. Oh my goodness, it's like where to start. Sue and I know each other well. Sue used to live near where I live, but then I actually used to live where Sue now lives, because I lived for a number of years in Flagstaff, Arizona, and practiced as a conventional psychologist. So anyway, it's wonderful to be here. And yeah, Sue, where shall we dive in? Do you want to talk about types of souls?
I think you should start with that. And by the way, I just want to share that I'd been doing my work with intuition and numerology for years, but it was really when I took Dr. Linda's training in soul regression that it just kicked my work up to the next level. And Linda, you are an incredible teacher, and I'm so grateful for that. So I honor you so much for that body of knowledge that you share with the world. So take it away and tell us about the different types of soul origins.
Okay. And for all of you that are here, and I understand this will be listened to perhaps by others listening to the recording, because I'm going to say we are all bereaved parents. Start thinking about the notion as I talk about what I like to call soul origin. Think about it, everyone, from the standpoint of your own child, or perhaps there are some of you who've had a child and more than a child pass, children. So because it's going to play into all this. So okay, so bear with me. This I don't want to make this lengthy, and yet I want it to be clear. So through my years of guiding regression, I've come to understand, I honestly have no doubt, there are I say 3 types of souls, and that makes it sound kind of simple and basic. There are 3 origins of souls that make these 3 types of souls different in certain ways. And I think as I describe this, some of you are likely to recognize signs and indications, not just of yourself, but probably of your child. And it may relate to, we'll talk about this, it may relate to your child being pure soul now versus in body. Okay, so when it's so funny, it's like I think, okay, Linda, make this simple, and it's like it's not very simple. When Earth was ready for human civilization, and I say human civilization not just when Earth was ready for incarnated souls to function on Earth, when the literal planet had cooled to the point, and this is true of all planets, when this planet we live on had cooled to the point it could sustain the incarnation of intelligent energy. I'm actually talking about beyond, after that point, when we were ready for civilization. Okay. And the 3 earliest civilizations on the planet are what we used to call Mesopotamia, or that area where Iraq and Iran come together. That's Mesopotamia. Egypt is another one of the 3 earliest places where civilization began on our planet. And the third location, may or may not be familiar to some of you. It's called the Indus, Indus, the Indus River Valley, for the most part, where India meets Pakistan, okay, in northern India. So the original souls that came to this planet to form or come into body to create civilization were souls from somewhere else in the universe, were souls from planets, star systems, and for the most part, souls, intelligent beings that came from somewhere inside of the solar system that contains Earth. Not the Milky Way galaxy, that's a galaxy, but the galaxy, as I'm sure you all know, our Milky Way galaxy has many solar systems. So most of those souls were intelligent, experienced souls that came to Earth to begin to develop civilization. Most of those souls stayed on Earth. Now, that original soul group, a lot of people give it a name. There is a familiar name. That original soul group that came from interplanetary origins or, non-Earth origins is called the Melchizedek soul group. And I won't go into it, it'll take too long. I'll give you a way, anybody, to reach out and ask me questions. So those original souls were interplanetary. They came to Earth, and almost all of those, it's the classic, if any of you have studied this, it's the 144,000 souls that you do read about in the Old, and I think certainly in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And these souls were mandated, were charged from a higher vantage point, call it God, call it the source, call it what you want to call it. They were charged with developing an egalitarian, peaceful, equality-based society. Now, obviously, and that would be a whole nother, hours worth of discussion. We don't have a peaceful, egalitarian, all people's needs are met society. Okay, so that's called an earth-based soul. The souls that came and stayed, and I'm actually an example. I am one of those souls. I've been coming here for an extremely long time. Okay.
This is why she's so smart and has helped so many people.
I mean, I think that, you can tell already that Sue and I are a little bit of a mutual admiration society going on between the two of us. But yes, my soul, Sue's soul, many of your souls that are here and listening fit in one of these categories. I know that why I continue to come into body is to keep doing what I can in the human body, and we all can do this, to aid human culture to become more peaceful, equality-based. Okay, so that's an earth-based soul. An earth-based soul has come here sort of ad nauseum. Learning and growing and learning and growing and tripping and falling and tripping and falling to grow and evolve. Okay. Then, and I always want to bring this back to our beloved children. I know a little bit about the soul of my child that was born at 26 weeks and did not stay on Earth very long, which I'm happy to talk about if there's time. Okay. I'm going to suspect that a lot of our children that are now pure higher self, pure soul, may not be earth-based souls. So what are the other two categories? Okay. One of those other two types of souls is an interplanetary soul that continues to function at the level of their higher self. Their higher self resides somewhere in the universe, probably inside of the solar system that contains Earth. An interplanetary soul does not regularly incarnate on Earth. So I'm going to use lingo. EB soul, Earth-based soul. IP soul, interplanetary soul. An interplanetary soul is a highly evolved soul that is not used to coming to Earth, comes to Earth to aid humanity, because an IP, interplanetary, an IP soul comes from somewhere else in the universe that is healthy. They come from, I mean, think idealistically, they come from a healthy, idealistic culture. They eat well. They treat each other with equality. They treat each other well. They don't argue about, well, my skin color's right and yours is wrong, or my religion's right and yours is wrong, blah, 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 blah. But interplanetary souls also come from innumerable locations. Some of them are purely right-brained and emotion-based. Some of them are purely left-brained and mental, cerebral, scientific, technological. Some of them have partnerships and marital types of relationships. Some don't. Some of them have children. Some don't. But they are incredibly wise, but they don't fit well on Earth. This is where I want you all to be thinking about your children. They don't fit well on Earth. They may have a lot of health problems. They may be ADHD. They may be incredibly sensitive to energy and can't be in large crowds. They may get sick by being in an energetic atmosphere that doesn't feel right. But they're smart, they're wise, they're gifted, and yet they often struggle. Okay, so it's an IP soul. Lastly, but of no less importance, in fact, absolutely no less importance, we have souls on this planet that come from the angelic realm. They come from the realm that supports the divine. They come from the realm that supports, and here the words aren't sufficient, but they're the only words I can use. They are love and compassion people. Love and compassion is their signature energy. In many ways, on the rare occasion that angelic souls come to Earth, and they do, I've regressed a number of them, functioning in our, at times, non-loving human culture is really challenging, because they're beautifully idealistic, and yet they're painfully idealistic. And sometimes, this is what we can get into as we move forward, do they stay in body? Do they not stay in body? Why do they not stay in body? Do they choose to not stay in body? Did they plan to not stay in body? Maybe, and we can talk more about it. But now I'll stop jabbering, Sue, and let you add whatever you want to add.
Well, one of the very profound insights you gave me, Linda, was that my discomfort here was because I was also from that angelic realm, and it was also explaining why I connect to the children so much, both here on earth and in spirit. And, you know, when I have worked with grieving moms or grieving dads, and I connect to their child, I often feel that the reason that they'll really talk to me and come through in my writing is because they sense that I love them, that I'm sort of like them, and that I struggled to be on earth, especially in my early years. And many of these departed souls of these children, these gorgeous children, you know, many of them knew that they wouldn't be able to stay here long, because it's like such a low dense vibration on earth compared to the angelic vibration of the higher realm, which is very close to God consciousness. Is that correct, Linda, as you understand things?
That's absolutely true. And Spirit is telling me, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, Sue, and it's you share your gifts with families because you are able to connect with these children. But I want to just comment, and I assume I'm going to take the liberty to assume this is fine with you, Sue. But many of you already know Reverend Sue Frederick. Just look at Sue's, what I'm going to use a fancy French word, visage, or her countenance. And in that, and look at mine. Mine's different. Look at the difference in our
No,
energy.
Linda, it's all the lighting here in the Zoom.
I think not, but yes, and we need angelic souls on the planet. I can say this about the other two groups, but I know that spirit, the higher realm, is not sending, that's not the way to put it. It is having more angelic souls agree to come to Earth because, and you all know this, we all live in body on this planet. We are all human manifestations of our souls. We need more love and compassion on this planet. And
Linda, since you taught me these things, I've had quite an intuitive download about early exit points, whether it's our children taking them or, I'm quite clear now that my husband, who died, in my arms when I was 29, he was of the angelic realms. And that Chrissy, my girlfriend who quickly crossed over after Paul did, was also, and that angelic souls will often come in sort of a posse, right? Of a group of souls together. And I really got this understanding that I was appointed to stay, whether I liked it or not. And for some of you parents, I want you to think about your child coming in with a posse of angelic souls that could be your other children or the rest of your family, and them sort of giving you the intuitive message early on, hey, I'm just not going to stay here long, but you all have to carry on the work and the love and the compassion, and I'll work from the divine to do that. So that's just my recent, downloads that I've gotten about it.
Yeah, I might just add to that, Sue, that most of the time, if I'm working with a client that is either my client who's an adult, it could be a young adult, I'm either working with a client who's an angelic soul, or I at times the client is learning more about angelic souls and they have a child that's an angelic soul. Somewhere in that mix is an earth-based soul.
Yes.
And somewhere in that mix is an earth-based soul, because the earth-based soul, it's just kind of like me. I'm just kind of like this old fogey kind of soul, meaning I've just come here so many times. Do I struggle with human behavior that isn't the best choice? Or yes, of course I do. But I've been here so many times that it's not overly hard for me to be grounded on Earth.
And
so
Linda, this is what everybody loves about you. I mean, I've tried to tell you this in a million different ways. You just have the energy of being strong and solid here on Earth, no matter what happens, no matter what comes your way. You've had losses, you've had all kinds of things, and you just keep on being here, grounded and stable and helping others. That is so powerful. And the people who are on this call who feel differently than that, who feel that they often just can't believe they have to stay here another day and they don't even feel capable of it. I want you all to know that somewhere in our posse is somebody like Linda who can really help us stay here. And I know that my sister from my family of origin has been that for me. She came in with such grounded strength, very earth-based. She's also a Taurus, which is also often an earth-based soul will pick that heavy, earthy energy. And she has kept me here for many, many points in my life. So think about your family and your loved ones. Who do you go to feel safe with and like you can stay? Linda is one of those souls.
Yeah, and the opposite of that, that's beautiful, Sue, what you're saying, because the opposite of that, and I am not a formal astrologer in any way. I know kind of a little finger's worth of knowledge of astrology. I'm a Sagittarius sun sign. I've been told, so I have one key earth sign in my chart, and I don't remember, it's Virgo, and I forget exactly where it fits, but it's to counterbalance how earth-based I am, so that I have a little bit of earth in my chart, but not a lot, which allows me to understand these kind of things. Yeah, yeah. And so we might, Sue, switch to interplanetary souls, because
Could I
oh, go ahead.
just
Somebody
a quick question. There's a
go for it.
question
Yeah.
in the chat box based on what you guys have been saying. And Netta says, based on your experience, do angelic souls tend to take their own life? Is that something that maybe what you are kind of explaining, or is it something that I guess what I would like to know, when you're saying that you need to have someone who's earth-based to tether you to earth, um, obviously there are so many ways that we transition, and having someone transition by taking their own life is only one of the many ways that people transition. And I think that if someone is ready to go and it's in their soul plan, it doesn't matter how they transition, but they're just not tethered to the earth strongly enough. Is that correct? Or would you guys maybe?
That's how I feel about it, but I'd love to hear what Linda says about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, taking one's own life, suicide is a huge topic. And, you all know I'm trained, I'm licensed as a psychologist. So I was once a conventional person that honestly didn't understand any of this, but I still have that kind of hat in my closet, if you will, of being a psychologist. I find personally, when I'm working with clients, that if in fact we're going to tie taking one's life to our soul type or our soul origin, that's probably a little more likely for an interplanetary soul than an angelic soul. And I'm saying that a little tentatively, but I want to say I really think that's probably valid. And that may be part of why I was switching a bit to talk about interplanetary souls. It's not so Elizabeth, with what you've asked, it's not that taking one's life might not be tied to that person is an angelic soul, and there's just not enough love and compassion that they feel on this planet. But I honestly think, and I can feel my guides, I think, shaking their heads yes, that if taking one's life is tied to soul origin, it's going to be more because they're an interplanetary soul.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and I think that that's reassuring as well. It was just kind of hard to understand when you were talking about needing to be tethered to this earth if you are from the angelic realm. And we have one other question. Sherry is saying, is it possible that unborn babies are from the angelic realm? Thank you. So I'm wondering if you think that there might be more of them who are from the angelic realm, or are they from all three realms, maybe?
And I wonder if I assume that question means, are unborn babies more from the angelic realm, that the person who's asking is, are unborn babies that don't survive
Don't
more?
survive. I think that's what she's saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say no. I don't think that it would matter in regard to unborn babies which soul type they are. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But let me just dive in and say some things about interplanetary souls, because I work with a lot of interplanetary souls. And I once asked my guides, like, okay, spiritual guides, here's me, Linda, this, as I said, funny way to put it, an old fogey earth-based soul, because I've just been here so many times. Why me? Why me as a regression therapist working with a lot of interplanetary souls? Well, one of my books is all about is all client material from interplanetary souls. And my guides basically said, Linda, it's because you are sufficiently grounded, because you are an earth-based soul, to help understand these IP souls. But let me put more characteristics, so those of you listening can think about, oh, am I, or what is my child an interplanetary soul? So interplanetary souls always have some kind of significant gift. They are wise beyond what you might expect, whether it's a musical gift, a mathematical gift, a artistic gift, whatever it might be. My favorite example, it's a very, I don't want to say extreme, but it's a very clear-cut example. Some years ago, on America's Got Talent, there was a young man whose name is Cody Lee, and he won AGT a season, maybe 3 to 5 years ago. He's visually impaired, visually challenged, and he's also on the spectrum. He's an incredibly gifted singer-songwriter. And so we need his gifts. But does he manage easily on his own? No, he has this beautiful mother. I mean, I only know this, I don't know him personally, but I know this from watching the show. So interplanetary souls, first of all, most people that are an interplanetary soul, they've always been fascinated with the night sky, with astrology, with UFOs, which are real. I've worked with many clients that have some of their existence on a UFO. There is intelligent life in so many locations inside of our solar system and outside of our solar system. And again, just like angelic souls, we need these IP souls on our planet. But at times, and oftentimes, they don't do well in human culture because they just don't understand, why unhealthy humans do the things they do. And so I've worked with a number of clients who've had a child take their life because they were an interplanetary soul. Or I've worked with a lot of clients, either the client's an interplanetary soul or their child is an interplanetary soul, and helping them stay. They often have health issues, allergies, digestive issues, simply because they're not used to these kinds of bodies. Sometimes they look unusual. Sometimes their clothing is unique. Sometimes their hairstyle or their hair color is unique. Their jewelry may be unique. We need them. They're wonderful, awesome, evolved souls. So, yeah.
Well, Linda, I just wanted to say too that for all of us who are connected to the departed, as we are here at HPH, and you all have children on the other side, and I've just got a husband and a best girlfriend and many other adults, but I don't have a child. And it was my sense from the beginning of this life almost that there were certain things on earth that I wasn't strong enough to take here that were part of the earth experience. And even when my child, Sarah, was born here and stayed I'm so grateful she stayed, I had this crazy fear that she was going to cross because so many of my beloveds are in the divine. And I remember this sense of knowingness that if Sarah had crossed, I wouldn't be like you beautiful parents who are here learning and growing and finding a way to help others with your grief, that would have been something beyond my soul contract abilities. And I say that with complete humility and honor to all of you who have lost children. And I lost a number of people more my age, and that was the best I could do with grief. But I will say that grief is our greatest spiritual teacher. Linda talks about this all the time. Elizabeth, everyone here knows this, that nothing gets us to look through and beyond the veil, like having our loved one go there and suddenly we feel their presence still with us on earth. That is the gift of our grief. And what Linda and I can tell you from our work with past lifetimes and in between lives is that there is no question, there is no doubt whatsoever that those spirits have a purpose, and that even when they cross early, they are helping us here on earth. They're on a team. I mean, Irene told us before the event started tonight that she had had a dream about Carly and her team of departed young women who were all together. And those agreements are in place before we get here. That's hard for our conscious mind to accept, but that's what I feel that is true.
Yeah, Sue, I might just add, as you're speaking about that, I have a certain amount of knowledge of the reason that I went through a challenging pregnancy of miscarry one day, oh no, okay, it'll be fine. Miscarry 2 days later, oh no, it'll be fine. And, I'm a Neanderthal, so it was, pre-ultrasound days. And so the doctors had no way of figuring out for what reason I was bleeding off and on for 4 months. And I had no spiritual awareness at all. In fact, it was 20 years after the birth and passing of our second child that I gained any sense of what we're talking about tonight. But for me, once I became aware of reincarnation, past lives, soul agreements, soul evolution, I came to understand that the soul of our second child, we named that child Adam. So the soul of Adam is a highly advanced soul, earth-based soul of the Melchizedek group. And that soul had agreed I needed, I call it sandpapering, meaning I had some cleaning up of past lives that I needed to do. I was a neglectful, and we've all done these kinds of things, but I was a neglectful parent in some of my past lives. I wasn't sufficiently committed to being a parent, and I know that to be true. I mean, today I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I adore my children and grandchildren, but I didn't do so well in past lives. And so the soul of Adam agreed to come into body. There was going to be this child stays, child goes, child stays, child goes for 4 months. And then I delivered that baby live and breathing at 26 weeks. And then he passed after a few hours. And this doesn't always happen. So please, everybody, if you've had a pregnancy loss, this is not necessarily the story of all of us with pregnancy loss, but that soul, the soul that was Adam, came to help me learn about grief, loss, and the incredibly the gift of children, and the we might just say that we can't count on. We can't just say, oh well, my child is born and it'll all be fine. You all know that as well as anyone. I also know, and I'm not going to go into this in great detail, but I do know a lot about many souls that keep coming back into body on Earth and serve different roles on our planet. And there are certain souls that have been incarnating over and over and over to help our planet as best they can. I know that the soul of Adam is a soul that is currently involved with trying to save a country. This is not tied to Israel. I know we have a lot, that's a whole nother long conversation. It's not tied to Israel, but I do know that that highly experienced soul agreed to help me, but is continuing to help the planet. That is quite possibly true for many of us as bereaved parents.
Yep. And the other thing I wanted to add to that too, for all the parents, is maybe one of the blessings of being from the angelic realms is that I have known since the moment I landed in this lifetime that we are surrounded by, I would have called it angels and saints when I grew up Catholic. There are times when I would have called it deities or beings. Doesn't matter what we call it, but we are surrounded by loving beings who are trying to help us, even beyond our departed loved ones who are trying to help us. And so even by asking to be shown their presence more clearly, or saying, I am open to experience you, angels, or other deities or other guides, please reveal yourself. You will be amazed how miracles like this happen. And I know some of you know because I posted it on Facebook. But a few weeks ago, an angel appeared in my bedroom, and I even was able to take pictures of it with my phone. And it was just a reaffirmation that, no, you're not alone and you're being helped. And the little miracle afterwards is that an aortic aneurysm that the doctor's been measuring, it shrunk a little, and I believe it's continuing to shrink. And that was sort of this agreement that my contract was, hey, this could be an exit point, but are you willing to stay and get some more work done? And I said, yes, I'm willing to stay. And this angel came into my room. And I say that to all of you because you've had those kinds of experiences. I know you have. And trusting them is what really fills us up with love and courage.
So I'm looking, thank you, Sue, for that and awesome experience. I'm looking at some of the questions, and I want to just comment about a couple of comments that a couple of you are talking about. So Renata, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, I see what you've written. And so in regard, Renata, to being the last one of your clan, I want all of us to think about, and Sue used a different word, which I love too, which is posse. We all have a clan or a posse at the soul level. And sometimes I'll use Sue's word because I like it. It's a great Western term, posse. Our posse at the soul level is going to be made up of, yes, your or our blood relatives. But our posse also is going to include the souls of non-blood relatives. Quick example. When I, years ago, when I had, I was a client, I was a regression client, and my husband was a regression client. We discovered, my husband and I discovered that in the soul group, my husband and I happened to be in the same soul posse in the higher realm. Now, this does not always happen. If you have a primary romantic partner, that doesn't necessarily mean that partner is in your soul posse. Could mean that, but may not mean that. But in my husband's and my posse is my husband's mother's father, his grandfather on the maternal side, and is my father's father, my paternal grandfather. So one of the grandparents of my husband and one of the grandparents of mine are in our soul posse. And here's one of the fun pieces. Long before we ever knew this, when my husband's name is Earl, when Earl's and my first child was born, and that is our first child that today is, how old is he? I don't know. He's almost 54. Our oldest child, when we named him, knowing nothing about this, the first name of our son is for my grandfather, that grandfather in the posse, and the middle name of our son is for the other grandfather in the posse. We had no knowledge. So when you think about being the last of your clan, be sure you think about others that aren't necessarily blood relatives, okay? Because I think that's just an important perspective. Then the other quick thing to say in regard to some of the questions I see being posted in the chat group Once you're an earth-based soul, you are always an earth-based soul. Once you're an IP soul, you don't change. I mean, yes, of course, that first group, the Melchizedek group, did change, but that is thousands, probably more than 10,000 years ago. If you're EB, you're EB. If you're IP, you're IP, and so on and so forth. You don't change soul origin, just to be sure people kind of grasp that.
Well, that's so brilliant. And I love all these questions, And I think that one thing we have to be careful of is looking for quick and easy answers, like, someone asked, are children who transition because of an accident an IP soul? Well, it's my understanding, and Linda, you can let me know what you think, is that no, I mean, our soul will choose an exit point that is right for our soul journey, no matter what the origin of our soul is. So, we can find comfort in knowing that we each have maybe different origins and different soul posses from those origins. But I think we should have to also be aware that this is an intermingled, complex universe that we live in. And if we could really nail down all these things and understand them completely with our logic brain, maybe we wouldn't be learning what we came here to learn. And I just wanted to share, this is the angel picture. I don't know if you all can see that. Can they see that, Elizabeth? On my screen?
Yes, they can. It's beautiful. I'm sorry, I was unmuted earlier.
That's
Or
awesome.
unmuted. Yes, it's very clear. And maybe you can explain what happened with this angel.
And I just want to tell everybody, just a sign that we're not ever alone, no matter how alone we feel. And, it doesn't matter really what this angel was telling me or doing with me. Just really look at it as an example of how present these beings of light are. I mean, this is the room I work in every day with clients, and I have never seen anything like this before or since. It was a sign that came to me so I would share it with all of you and help you know this is how present these beings are. This is beyond our departed loved ones. These are these other beings. We're talking about the angelic souls, perhaps, that really stay in the light realms as much as they can until they have to come to earth. And that picture right there, when I called Christy, who you all know and love, who's one of the moms here, and I said, this angel is here, Christy said, what is the angel telling you? And then I just broke into tears and I said, this angel is telling me that she's my mother in the earth realm. And I say that to the person who was asking about being the last of her clan, because I don't have a mother in this realm who loves me. And yet, look at that angelic realm mother right there who broke my heart open with love. This is the gift of this complex, miraculous, and mysterious universe that we live in.
That's beautiful. I was going to ask both of you, since both of you do this. Sherry's saying, what brainwave do we enter when we're doing a past life regression, and can this be achieved remotely? This is incredibly fascinating. Thank you. So, do you do remote past life regressions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an easy one to answer. Sue and I both do remote work. And I never did all my work remotely until COVID came along. And then people pushed me to do it that way. It works as well, if not better, in my opinion. And I think part of it's because the client gets to be in their own environment.
Yes.
But
I agree, 100%.
Yeah. It's beautiful that it does. And for people that understand brainwaves, it is alpha or theta brainwave state, which is purely relaxation. A lot of people so misunderstand and have connotations of hypnosis, like, you've lost control of yourself and you can do something that's embarrassing. That is absolutely not true. And all of us go into alpha and theta brainwave state on our own when we're relaxing long before we go to sleep. So yeah.
And the other thing I'd add to that is that working remotely, what I have found makes it easier to go into those higher brain waves because we're not feeling each other's physical energy. I mean, when a human being walks into your office, there's this sense of the physicality exchanging information, and kind of seeing, oh, look at that person. Oh, they're pretty. Oh, look what they're wearing. And it's that lower level of like connection on the physical level, on the personality level. But when we connect online virtually through something like Zoom, we can just hear the voice. The voice is such a connection through the soul. It can bypass personality and human self. And that voice can be such a powerful, I mean, I have clients I've never met in person and I've worked with for years. I feel so drawn and close to them, like they're my family, and I have never met them in person. So I think it's a great gift that we've been given with this virtual reality here.
It's interesting because I think that, especially because of COVID as well, a lot of mediums, evidential mediums, have been doing readings that are long distance as well. And I know of quite a few that think that it's much easier to do the readings over the phone, and that the sitter will get a much better reading that way as well. So I think it's fascinating that it's the same thing for the past life regressions too. And I know that I had a fabulous past life regression over Zoom. So I've experienced that myself. And yes, that's just such great information. And Vidya is saying that she does past life regression hypnosis from YouTube. Is it normal to fall asleep though? Just curious. No.
I almost never have that happen. And,
Okay.
and it's because there's so much ongoing talking and guiding. I've almost never had that happen. The other thing that people ask a lot, if I had like 1 penny every time this has been asked, who knows how many pennies I'd have. It's like, Linda, what if I don't get anything? Linda, I want to have a regression, but what if, I can't do this or nothing comes forward? For me, I'm sure it's true for you as well, Sue. That, I mean, I'm not going to say that never, ever, ever happens, because then I wouldn't be authentic in my response. Maybe far more than less than 1% of the time does that ever happen. We're all more intuitive than we think.
Right.
And we all, oftentimes, we don't know how to tap into our intuition. So prior to the regression, I spend time with people helping them understand how does intuition work and how do they find their intuition? But it just almost never occurs.
And for me, I use the opening few moments of the soul regression to talk to the client about their soul path through numerology, just to lift them up to that different perspective, to get them to stop thinking about their body and if they're going to be able to experience this. Because suddenly when they're going, oh, that's my soul mission path, and oh, that's my soul agreement with my departed, now they're already shifting into that higher consciousness. So then when we go on the journey and I put them through the relaxation, it's like they've already experienced a piece of it in that little numerology thing. And so now when they go there that way, it's not frightening to them. It's like we set the intention by talking about the numbers and the soul path. And then we go on the journey, and I'm always asking, tell me what you're experiencing. And so they can't fall asleep because I'm going to wake them up,
Well, yes, and I just put in the chat box about your new numerology calculator that we have to make sure that everyone knows about, which is so fascinating. And we have about 4 more minutes. I wanted to bring Irene on here very quickly just to talk a little bit about her experience with Dr. Linda Backman right after Carly transitioned. Could you just say a little bit about what that was like? So it's maybe more understandable to other people here in the group.
Well, it was so interesting when Linda talked about not knowing what hypnosis was going to feel like, because I had it in my mind that, you could become a trained monkey or something and you were asleep. And it was the deepest relaxation I've ever felt without being asleep. So that was really interesting. And I heard myself speaking, but I wasn't aware of what I was saying. And it wasn't until I listened to the recording later that I knew what was said, and it was fascinating. It was really fascinating. I learned a lot. I've listened to it many times, and I recommend everyone doing it. It was a great experience.
And that's why the recordings are so important, because Linda and I both, we're getting to hear what they say and we can remember it, but they're not in their logic mind. And so they're often not going to remember it. But when they go back and listen to that recording, I've had clients come back and go, "Oh my God, it really was real." I'm like, yes.
I'd add just a couple of quick things as we're talking about this, and just this one piece quickly. Just this afternoon, I was guiding a past life regression, and it was a male client, and he went to a war experience in Vietnam. And he sort of knew he had some trauma from Vietnam anyway, from just past life memory. But when we moved to the scene where he was severely injured by some kind of explosion, and I had my AirPods in, and this does not always happen, but he was fully in the experience, and he was very expressive, and it totally surprised me. And when that happens, it does not always happen that people are that expressive, but clearly, I think for him, that was a release, a way of releasing. The other just really quick thing I want to say, and I wish we had 2 hours instead of 1 hour, but all of us are more intuitive than we think we are. And trust me, I'm not saying that just to be nice, because I used to think I wasn't intuitive, and I used to feel like I didn't know how to tap into my intuition. And so I'll just say that what I would advise people to do, those of you who may not feel like you're practiced with your intuition, is to expand your trust. When you get a hit, like I need to call so-and-so, or I need to sign up for this course, or I need to read this book, or whatever it might be, to more often than not trust it versus explain it away. Because the human condition is to get into our left brain and go, "Oh no, I'm just making that up," or "No, that's not right." Go ahead and text or call that person you keep thinking about, or send them a quick email, or go ahead and sign up for that course or whatever it might be, because we are more intuitive than we think. And okay, my guys are telling me to say one more quick thing, and that is that I would hazard to say it's almost probably an automatic, a fair assumption that's automatic, that if we've had a loss as significant as the passing of our beloved child or children, that not only means that child or children, that child is very likely an experienced soul, we are also very likely an experienced soul. I'm not saying that from some ego place of, "Oh, my child is so evolved," or "I'm so evolved." I'm saying that from a support humanity, trust there's a reason for this experience, and trust your child and you have agreed to expand yourselves and to expand and assist others. So I could say a whole lot more, but I'll stop with that.
That is beautiful. And that is exactly what I think all of us need to hear. And I couldn't agree more with that statement, because I think that obviously our kids are evolved souls, but I also think that we through this experience with our children, become evolved souls. And we call ourselves shining light parents, which means that the light of our kids shines through us instead of bereaved parents. And this came from Suzanne Giesemann, because that's one of the saddest words in the dictionary, to say bereaved. So we didn't want to call ourselves bereaved. And I am so grateful that both of you are on here. I could think of a million other things that we need to talk about and discuss. One very quick thing, I think that a lot of people have a little bit of confusion about what the difference between a past life regression and a between lives regression is. Could you maybe either Sue or Linda address that and just explain a little bit more about that?
Well, this is Linda's world, but let me throw in my comments from my experience with clients. Is often a client will just want to do a session where we do between lives because it's easier for the soul to have a conversation with their guides and their counsel and explore the divine realms, go to the library of soul wisdom and all of that. And then they gain confidence from that experience. And then they'll want to come and do a past life because now they know that they can relax. So that makes the past life part of it, which really, I think, requires a little more quieting of the logic mind, because they'll find themselves in a past lifetime and their logic mind will be going, wait, this, what time is this? What year is this? But once they've traveled between the realms, they know how to settle down and accept what comes to them. And then the past life seems to be a little easier for them to experience. Is that what you experience, Linda, in your work?
Yeah, I think what happens, Sue, for any of us is when we become a regression therapist, we put our own soul as the regression therapist, we put our own energy, our own soul, our own intentions on it. And for me, it's almost the reverse that some clients do better with accessing past life first, because it's not always a human past life, but it's often a human past life, and it's easier to access. And then they do the longer between lives soul regression next. And I know this is probably confusing for people, so write to Sue, write to me, we're happy to explain it more. When I guide between life soul regression, it includes past life. So it starts with past life. I follow really the Dr. Michael Newton model. And so it's past life leading to the soul level. And so what I'll just finish by saying, all of you are listening to Sue and me, and you may decide, you may not ever want a regression, but if you do, just follow your heart and I like to say your gut, follow your heart and your gut as to, what feels right to you and what you want to do and who you want to do it with. Yeah. Because we each put our own stamp on it, and that is totally normal.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I want to tell you that we have people saying in the chat box, thank you so much. Very interesting information. Claire saying, I agree. Thank you. Sherry saying, incredibly thought-provoking talk. Thank you both so much. Carla saying, thank you so much. I just want the people who are listening to be able to also know that you are very appreciated, and more people are writing as well. I wish that we did have a longer period of time to be able to speak to you, but we will have you back if that's okay. So we would love to have both of you come back and speak more about this with us. And it really has been fascinating to learn about the 3 different types of beings here on Earth that are just working very hard to help us to make the world a better place and to be able to move forward and heal. So thank you. And we always ask everyone, unless Irene has something, did you want to just say something?
No, just thank you. This was great evening. So please, everyone, unmute and say thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Reverend
Thank
Sue.
you very much. Thank you for
Bye.
inviting
Thank
me.
you, ladies.
Thank you.
Right, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a
Thanks.
wonderful
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.